Okay, we are in part 4 of Introduction to Anthropology and the 4, sometimes 5 fields of anthropology. We're finally to cultural anthropology, which is the study of living cultures, the everyday lives of people in their communities, including their behaviors, beliefs, and institutions. To understand another culture, we must not simply look at it from a distance, but live among its peoples and partake in the activities of their daily lives. Cultural anthropology has two main components, ethnography and ethnology. Ethnography is a written description or profile of a particular society's culture. And ethnography can be a documentary or photos as well. And ethnography is basically a description of a culture. It can take many forms. Ethnology is the use of ethnographic data to analyze different cultures and explain similarities and/or differences between groups of people. There are many different methods that cultural anthropologists can use to do ethnography or to create an ethnography. These are called ethnographic methods. Examples of these methods include interviews, photography, audio and video, document analysis, life histories, mapping, and the most important method, participant observation. Ethnology is cross-cultural comparisons and used to create theories that explain differences or similarities among groups. Arriving at scientific explanations concerning the function and operation of social practices and cultural features and patterns in all times and places. So this is one of the goals of ethnology. Another goal is to use the descriptive data from ethnographies to come to conclusions about humanity. Applied anthropology. Applied anthropology is the application of anthropological data, perspectives, theory, and methods to identify, assess, and solve contemporary social problems. It's basically bringing information and methods from the other fields of anthropology into the real world to help solve problems. So it's the application of what anthropology has learned outside of academia or outside the university. So examples of subfields and topics within applied anthropology include public archaeology, community development, working with descendant communities, and interpretive projects for the public. It also includes cultural resource management, which is a major kind of section of applied anthropology. Contract as well, it includes contract archaeology, public educational programs, and historic preservation. Cultural resource management, often called CRM, is deciding what needs to be saved and preserved when it comes to archaeological sites. So preserving significant information about the past when these sites cannot be saved, and often in cases of development or in a case where there's affordability issues or the site just cannot be saved for some reason. So we've been talking about cultural anthropology and applied anthropology. Let's dive a little bit deeper into what is culture for the rest of this lesson. Culture is involved in all of the fields of anthropology, and we need to understand what it is. So I talked earlier about ethnography and participant observation. This class is going to be ethnographic in nature if it's a cultural anthropology class. Of course, if we're doing the 4 fields, you're going to study the cultural aspect, the ethnographic aspect during the cultural section of the class. But anyway, rather than ethnology and comparison, we focus more on ethnography in my anthropology classes. If you're taking a midterm and final, you're probably going to be describing a culture using many ethnographic sources. So culture is knowledge and behaviors that vary among societies and are handed down through the generations. That's one definition. Another is that it's a shared and learned system of behavior or a dynamic system of behaviors, relationships, values, and beliefs. Like anthropology, culture has many definitions. So here's another definition, a dynamic system of learned and shared behavior. So we're distinguishing, when we say learned and shared, we're distinguishing between something that's instinct or something that just one person knows. So one person can't have a culture. Don't forget what I mentioned about societies in an earlier segment of this lesson. Another definition of culture was defined by the anthropologist E.V. Tyler in 1871. He stated it's that complex whole which includes knowledge, belief, art, morals, law, custom, and any other capabilities and habits acquired by man as a member of society. As you can see, this definition includes lots of different aspects of humanity. So hundreds of definitions have been proposed. One of our textbooks might not be the one you're using this semester, but another definition is culture is a system of knowledge, beliefs, patterns of behavior, artifacts, and institutions that are created, learned, and shared by a group of people. This includes a lot of the features. It includes material remains as well, which is nice. Oftentimes we're talking about knowledge and behavior and relationships, not necessarily the tangible aspects of culture, but it's good to include those too. So as you can see, it's kind of hard to include everything in one definition because there are so many different aspects of culture. I said this already, but culture is learned, not biologically inherited, and it's passed on. You learn it from other people in a process called enculturation. This is the process by which culture is transmitted from one generation to the next. Here we have some chimpanzees showing a little chimpanzee how to smash a nut. I'm guessing that's a nut with a rock. It's also shared. All members of a culture will hold a shared set of ideas, behaviors, and materials. Every human society exhibits their own culture. This doesn't mean that every person in a society shares the exact same ideas, behaviors, and materials, but in general, cultures are shared in societies. So again, cultural anthropology is the study of culture, a society's shared and learned ideas, behaviors, and perceptions. And I already mentioned society and culture in a separate part of the lesson. So don't forget that culture cannot exist and persist without a society, and every society has a culture. To conclude, anthropology is a very diverse discipline that covers many aspects of humanity. There are 5 fields: biological, linguistic, archaeology, cultural, and applied. Culture is a dynamic system of learned and shared ideas, behaviors, and materials. And some important functions of culture are to allow people to survive and thrive in their environment, and allowing thus for the sharing and learning of the culture through the generations. This concludes the lesson. Thank you for listening.